Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning, Massachusetts Wing. And on behalf of Colonel Flaherty, your wing commander, Lieutenant Colonel Roy Long, who you just heard from, your chief of staff, and myself, Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Hood, your vice commander and master of ceremonies for this morning's General Assembly, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to the 2021 Virtual Massachusetts Wing Conference. You know, I think as we can all relate, we've had quite a year dealing with this COVID pandemic. And as such, we are unfortunately with some conferences after that, that we will be able to give our webcams the well-deserved rest that I think they need and hopefully gather in person. So that being said, I would be remiss if I did not first off acknowledge the incredible effort put by Lieutenant Colonel Claire Belden for taking on the role of the project manager for this year's conference. Ma'am, whether it's in person or virtual, you always put your heart and soul into this. And we can't thank you enough for all you do for Massachusetts Wing. I'd also like to thank our Chief of Staff, Lieutenant Colonel Roy Long. So as we all know, Colonel Long hails from the great state of Pennsylvania. And as such, many of us, including myself, have not had the opportunity to meet him yet. But his efforts to pull together from an IT perspective, this conference has been nothing short of outstanding. Now, I'll tell you, my perspective of Colonel Long is that he's sitting behind this huge wall of computer screens, pulling levers, hitting switches, and he's making it all happen. Sir, you've been a great addition to our team, and we're very happy that you're with us. So our conference agenda this morning will consist of the General Assembly this morning. We are fortunate to have some great speakers lined up for you. This will be followed by the presentation of awards for both 2019 and 2020. And while a virtual conference prevents us from physically handing the award recipient with their well-earned award today, I don't want you to let that take away from the importance or the significance of the outstanding work that you've done. At a time not too far following this conference, your command team has plans to visit each and every one of you to physically present your awards to you at your respective squadrons. So before I turn it over to Chaplain Preble for the invocation, I would like to acknowledge our honored guests. We are very pleased to have with us Colonel Everett Hume, Northeast Region Vice Commander. Hello. And we're also very pleased to have Brigadier General Edward Felker, our CAP National Vice Commander. In addition, we have Brigadier General Virginia Gaglio, Chief of Staff and Air Component Commander for the Massachusetts Air National Guard. General Gaglio will be our keynote speaker. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to have you join us today, and we look forward to hearing from you all later this morning. Chaplain Preble, would you like to lead us in this morning's invocation?
Certainly. Let us pray. At the beginning of this day, Lord God, we pause to thank you for the blessings of life and commit to you the activities of this wing. As we seek to fulfill our responsibilities, we pray for courage in our daily endeavors, wisdom in our decisions, and love in our associations. We are mindful this day of those who cannot be with us due to illness or other reasons. We also call to mind all of those who we have lost this past year. Bless and comfort all those who mourn them, and may their memory remain green in our minds. Bless and watch over our nation and its leadership. Bless our national organization and those entrusted with leading us. Bless the people here present and all in our wing, the missions we undertake, and our families and loved ones. Hold ever before us the high vision of a nation where people are equally free, where justice and truth are the law of life, and citizens live to serve one another. In this place, make us equal to the high trust placed in us, just in the use of power and generous in the protection of the weak. We look to you, Infinite Father, for help, strength, and courage to bring to this day the best we have to offer for the good of our nation, the communities we serve, and to one another. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Preble, for guiding us with your spiritual message. I would now like to introduce Captain Todd Alexander, your Wing Director of Safety, to present this morning's safety brief.
Good morning, everybody. I apologize, I don't have the fancy background. It's been a different year for all of us, and dealing with technical glitches and Zoom meetings has been one of them. Do you guys have my slides that you could advance as we move
I
through?
do, sir. You just tell me when to advance the slide and I'll go ahead and do it for you.
All right. So yeah, go ahead with the slides. So this year we get to skip the emergency exits and bathroom locations and meeting points and all that sort of thing. I think all you guys can manage to gather that information on your own, and hopefully are familiar with your surroundings. So we're going to get right into the mishap summaries. We'll talk about some of the common mishaps and ways that we can prevent them. And then we have some emphasis items at the end that we're going to talk about. Next slide. So I just put up some stats here that compare our fiscal year 2019 to fiscal year 20 mishaps. Happy to say that our numbers are down overall. You know, it was a different year, but we still were able to maintain our flying hours last year. So there was still a lot of flight activities, and we also maintained a continuous mission for many days, supporting the warehouse efforts for MEMA. So that was a long-standing mission. So we still had a lot of activity, and we were still able to carry all that activity out safely. There was a couple of minor bodily injury incidents, a couple of minor aircraft incidents. One was just some debris, windborne debris that happened to hit an aircraft that was parked during a tropical storm. And we had a minor vehicle incident. So overall, pretty good. Next slide, please. The bodily injury ones seem to be common. There's some people that may have pre-existing conditions that present themselves at inopportune times. There's PT and encampment seems to always have a little spike in injuries. There's lots of activity there and opportunity for things to go wrong. There's the minor bumps, bruises, and cuts that we see, and falling over. Sometimes you get the locking of the knees at an event, or things like that. People get faint. Dehydration, of course, is a concern with both cadets and seniors, and with all of our different activities, very important to stay hydrated. Next slide, please. Sometimes we see patterns of cadets possibly attending events without proper paperwork that may indicate pre-existing conditions, which sometimes are helpful for us to know ahead of time. So we ask people to really be honest and fill out that paperwork appropriately, and let us know ahead of time if there's any issues so that we can make sure we accommodate properly. Same with pre-existing health issues. You know, if we know ahead of time, it certainly helps the medical team and the safety team to monitor and make sure that things are being taken care of. And then there's also, the chance for things that aren't done appropriately or improperly, where maybe you're moving a heavy object, and instead of grabbing a cart or a hand truck, somebody tries to carry it and hurts their back, or trips or slips, or so we just want to take the time to really think about things and make sure that we're doing them properly. And if there's a easier, safer way to do it, that we follow that course. Next slide.
Did that click for you?
Nope.
There we go.
There you go. So some of the ways, we're going to talk about some ways to prevent mishaps. ORM, of course, is a requirement. We need to be completing those risk management forms for all of our activities, identifying those risks, trying to find ways to lower the risk level, mitigate risk, and making sure that we're really taking a good look at all these activities ahead of time. Maintaining situational awareness during all these activities is very important. Be aware of what's going on around you. Looking at what can be done to prevent injuries, and keeping our members safe. We always want to make sure we have safety officers assigned to activities, and that should not be the person that's in charge of the event. It should be another person who can be really just focused on the safety aspect of things. And we can certainly use cadets to assist in that role. Another important thing again is to maintain hydration, get proper rest and eat. Nobody operates at their best when they're hungry or tired and dehydrated. Next slide, please. Some of the common aircraft incidents that we see are flat tires. Luckily for us, we haven't seen any of this in quite a while, but it's great to take a review of this, making sure our tires are fully inflated. The stickers should be right near each tire on the aircraft, so you know the appropriate pressure. If they're low, we got to get them filled up. Most FBOs have either an air tank or capability to fill them up. Some of us have portable little, rechargeable air compressors or things like that we can use. So tire pressure is very important.
Yep.
Watching our crosswind landing components, so we're not coming in, sideways and stressing the tires and the gear, and making sure we're not forcing an exit off a runway. If you can't make the taxiway, avoid that heavy braking, avoid having your feet on the toe brakes as you're coming in to land, ensuring that our landing weights are proper. Another thing to help with the flat tires. Maintenance issues we see, alternators. I happen to be lucky one to have an alternator fail during a mission, which was a non-event. We noticed the low voltage and radios started cutting out, and we were able to make a precautionary landing at Fitchburg, right at our maintenance hub, and get that problem taken care of. It was good. Rough running engines and avionics problems are some of the other common aircraft problems that we see. Next slide, please.
Sorry, a little slow sometimes.
Yeah. Another thing which did present itself this year is damage to aircraft and by flying objects. That was, one of them. The aircraft was tied down and the object was not ours. It happened to be something that belonged to the MIT over at their hangar that flew over and hit the aircraft. Luckily, there was no significant damage that required repair. It just required an inspection. And it actually fostered a good relationship that we started with MIT. And they've allowed us to use their hangar some for missions when we needed to shelter the aircraft and things like that. So good relationship came out of that unfortunate little bit of damage. Taxing, another area of concern. Make sure that we maintain our clearances and wing walkers if needed, or pushing the airplane around instead of taxing once we get too close to objects. So maintaining that situational awareness is very important. And then of course the damaged aircraft is the unknown causes, the things that sometimes get found after the fact that should be getting checked on our post-flight inspections. When we're done flying at the end of the day, it's important not to just put the gas in the airplane and tie it down, but to take a look around and see if there's anything that may have happened during the flight and note that, so that the information gets put in the record and any appropriate repairs or action can be taken if needed. And then the next person that's coming to use the aircraft doesn't get stuck with a potential issue. Next slide, please. So just a quick review on things to prevent these incidents. Like we talked about before, the tire pressures, weights, favorable winds, heavy braking, maintaining those taxi requirements, and really being good stewards of our aircraft. We have some, really nice aircraft that's provided to us, and it's really important to take care of those and maintain them, so that we can continue to get many good years of service out of them and continue to get the support from National for upgrades and things like that. So being a good steward of all of our equipment really is important. Next slide, please. And the van incidents, damage, of course, from hitting objects or hitting other objects, entering and exiting parking spots can be a challenge. These vans, of course, are not the typical vehicles that most people drive every day. They're much longer. Their turning radiuses are much different. They have higher centers of gravity. They have blind spots. It's very important to be familiar and use spotters if necessary. And I've said it before, there's no harm in getting out of the van if you don't have a spotter and looking at what's behind you or in front of you. If there's any question, it's a lot less embarrassing to get out of the vehicle and just take a look around than it is to clobber something and end up having to file, reports, accident reports and safety mishap reports and insurance claims and everything. there's no harm, like I say, getting out of the vehicle and just taking a look around. We haven't had a lot of missions or activities, although we have been pretty active with our Cyrexes, so I think the vans are getting used, but it's important to regain some proficiency probably in driving these larger vehicles as we move forward, getting more active again. Next slide, please. So of course, some of the things we can do is being careful when we're turning, being aware of that large turning radius, using the spotters, and as I just talked about, if not, get out and take a look. And then as with any driving, being defensive on the road, watching out for other drivers, and kind of picturing or thinking ahead of things that may happen and being prepared for those things is important. Leave appropriate distances between vehicles and follow the speed limits and things like that. Next slide, please. So in summary, of course, we want to keep all of our members safe, keep the bodily injuries down, watch out for all those common mishaps. Most of them are preventable. Some things are just accidents. They're bound to happen, but a lot of things are preventable. There's, things like distractions that can play into a lot of these various different incidents. So it's important when we're focused, we talk about that situational awareness and avoiding distractions really help out to reduce these incidents. And again, being good stewards of our equipment, driving and flying defensively and smartly, also very important. Next slide, please. So we had a couple emphasis items that we've been talking about a little bit this year after our review of the safety program. One thing that always comes up is this situational awareness, maintaining the good situational awareness at all times, being aware of our surroundings and our actions and what other people are doing around us, and using our resources that we have available to us to help increase situational awareness, whether it's using the ADS-B systems in the aircraft and being able to see other traffic, using flight following so that we can get some help from air traffic controllers. All those different things to help with situational awareness are really important. Maintaining good communication with your chain of command. We've had some things where folks maybe are not letting everybody know and participating in some sort of CAP activity. Maybe now that things are a little bit scattered, the way COVID's been, and people doing things sort of self-deploying to go maybe deliver something to somebody, things like that you should really making sure that your chain of command knows that you're engaged in a CAP activity and going to be doing something. That way we're able to look out for people and make sure people get to their destination safely, and maybe you can have a little talk about any safety things or things that may come up. Another emphasis item is proper data entry in the CERS system. I'm going to try to put together a refresher for safety officers and commanders on the safety data entry in CERS. We continue to see some problems with that. There's certain information that the CERS system wants to have entered at certain times in the reporting process. So it's important to follow the directions. All the boxes that we fill in do have directions, and the common problem is in the initial mishap notification asks for very limited information. They don't want CAP IDs and names and locations and things like that. That's when we commonly have too much information entered. So it's important just to read those notes and put the appropriate information in the boxes. And then again, proficiency. Some of us may have gone through periods of inactivity after COVID, and proficiency levels may be down. So it's important to realize that as you go back into the activities, that you start off, if you say haven't been flying for a long time and you're going to start flying again, probably isn't wise to start off with short field landings and takeoffs and more advanced maneuvers. You'd want to start off with the basics again. Same with, strenuous activities and going out on ground team activities. You might not start off on a long hike carrying a bunch of gear, and maybe you'd start off smaller, and get back into things. So maintaining that proficiency and even regaining proficiency if we have lost it over the periods of inactivity. But I feel that we've been fairly fortunate that we've maintained our flying hours. I think all of our pilots have been continuing to fly. We're lucky to have the engine proficiency flights that we were able to do to keep the airplanes flying and in good working condition, as well as the pilot's proficient. So I feel that in Mass Wing, at least, we've been able to maintain our proficiency fairly well. And I believe that's it. Is that the last slide, Steve?
That is the last slide.
That is the last slide. So
All right.
thank you for listening to my safety briefing information. And again, I apologize for not having the nice background.
So as always, Captain Alexander, thank you for your safety briefs. Always very informative, always strong words to live by, really both inside and outside of CAP. So thank you very much.
No problem.
So for those of us in Mass Wing and beyond, really this next gentleman needs no introduction as well, as he's well known to all of us, but I'm going to do it anyway. He's your commander, my friend, and my mentor. I've had the distinct honor and pleasure of serving as his vice for the past 3+ years, and I look forward to the days that remain ahead. This June will mark his 25th year as a member of Civil Air Patrol, and I'm sure he's just getting warmed up. So members of the Massachusetts delegation, honored guests, I present to you your wing commander, Colonel John Flaherty.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that very much. And yes, hopefully maybe another 25 more years, we'll see what happens in this great organization. General Gaglio, General Felka, and Colonel Hume, good morning and welcome to the Massachusetts Wing 2021 virtual conference. We're thankful that you could join us this morning, and we're looking forward to hearing you speak with us today. Fellow airmen, good morning and welcome to the 2021 Wing Conference. As you know, it has been quite a bit has happened over the last 2 years. Yes, it's been that long since we were able to get together amongst our friends and celebrate your accomplishments. You've been very busy despite the challenges and restrictions that have been brought upon us by the coronavirus. Once again, you continue to make me proud to stand with you in support of our communities, state, and nation. This year, as we gather to celebrate all that you've done, we also celebrate the 80th year of our great organization has been in existence. Our proud history began as we worked in support of our nation in its time of need, and continues to this day as we work alongside our fellow Air Force partners as a member of the total force. Recently, our missions have taken on a different look, from flying planes to SUASs, from flying intercept missions to provide invaluable training for our Air Guard partners, to working alongside them in a warehouse, receiving large quantities of personal protective equipment, taking inventory, preparing orders, and packing them up to be shipped out to local and state agencies on the front lines of the fight against the virus. The past year has been tough on everyone, and we all have losses that have touched us in one way or another. Two personal losses that I share with all of you are members that we will miss very much. Colonel Eric Schulman, former wing commander, one of my mentors, and the other one, Major John Borges, another mentor and a good friend. I don't think there was a person that John met who didn't become his friend. John's death hit many of us particularly hard, and we came together in support of John and his family, and we were able to provide two cadet color guards for services, and some former cadets who had joined with two of John's fellow Taunton police officers and performed the flag detail during his graveside service. I'd like to extend a heartfelt and personal thank you, excuse me, to each of those members who participated. John loved his job as a Taunton police officer and the work he did in the Civil Air Patrol. Please join me in a brief silence for Colonel Schulman and John, and for those losses and tough times that we have struggled through together. Thank you. We are slowly turning the corner in the battle against the coronavirus. And with that, we begin to look to the future and the good things and good times that will come. I regret that we are not able to meet in person at this time, as this is my last conference as your commander. In October, I will relinquish command to my successor. It will be a bittersweet moment for me. However, for now, I'm still here, the future is bright, and we have things to do. For those of you that have won awards today and received both cadet and senior member milestone awards, the command team and I will be making arrangements to come out and visit your squadrons and present you your awards in person and take some photographs, as Colonel Hood had previously mentioned. Also, as April is National Volunteer Appreciation Month, please let me say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you do every day as a volunteer member of the Civil Air Patrol. Thank you very much. Please enjoy your time with our guests this morning, and I look forward to seeing you in the afternoon sessions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Colonel, for those inspiring words. Truly appreciated. So it now gives me great pleasure to welcome back one of our own. Colonel Everett Hume currently serves as your region vice commander for the Northeast region, but Massachusetts is his home, except with the exception of the past few years, we'll say. Massachusetts wing has been his cap home for a very long time. A member of Civil Air Patrol for 45 plus years and former Massachusetts wing commander from October 2013 to October 2017. Sir, it's a great pleasure to have you with us today, and I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thanks, Colonel Hood. Massachusetts, it's absolutely a pleasure to be back speaking in front of you. As some of you may recall, we had a wonderful 4 years together as a wing commander, and some 40 years of my presence in Mass Wing prior to that, now at Northeast Region. Happy to be with you this morning to represent Colonel Jack Ozer as the Northeast Region Vice Commander this morning. To reiterate some of the words that Colonel Flaherty had mentioned this morning, it is a solemn reason this year with Colonel Schulman's passing, and certainly with our Major John Borges passing this year during COVID, and his kind acts that he did through generations of members of Civil Air Patrol. And they both will be missed dearly. But now it's the future. We've done a year of COVID, little more than a year, and we're looking forward to breaking out of this four walls and this virtual reality of staring into these webcams in front of our computers and seeing each other only through this means. As we slowly come out of this, it's going to be a new world. But you faced this past year with the challenges that I expected of Massachusetts to do. You've been there to provide support for our local MEMA agency and providing warehousing and support in their distribution warehousing. You've also continued to support Fertile Keynote, which is critical to our Air Force and our National Guard unit at Barnes and Westfield. And without you continuing to face, the challenges that we have with COVID and learn from them and be resilient, we could not have accomplished this at all. And it's through your efforts and through your kindness and through your volunteerism that we've been able to accomplish that. And for that, the region commander, myself, and the region command staff extend a hearty congratulations to you, Massachusetts, for a job well done. And hopefully, in the coming year, and maybe this summer, we'll be able to have a conference that's at least partial face-to-face, if not hybrid, for the Northeast region in nearby Connecticut, which some of you will be able to attend. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Colonel Hood.
Well, thank you, Colonel Hume, and let me be the first to say I really do like the beard.
This is my COVID reaction beard.
There you go. Good for you.
I'm not sure how much long it'll stay.
Well, appreciate having you with us this morning, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So representing national headquarters, you really can't get much higher than our next speaker. Well, for the time being, you could probably get one higher. But we're very appreciative of the fact that the Vice Commander of Civil Air Patrol, General Felka, is able to join us today. And his primary duty is really to assist the National Commander in leading our more than 60,000 volunteers in the fulfillment of our 3 congressionally chartered missions that we have been tasked with, and we all know those: the emergency services, cadet programs, and aerospace education. He's also a member of the CAP Command Council and CAP Senior Advisory Group, advising the National Commander and the Board of Governors on CAP operational and policy issues. A resident of the greater Detroit area, General Falca joined Civil Air Patrol as a Michigan Wing Cadet in 1987 and earned the prestigious General Carl A. Spaatz Award in 1993. General, we're very honored to have you with us today, and I'll turn the mic over to you.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation to be with you. If I could ask the host to please allow me to share my screen, I do have some slides for you.
You should be good to go now, sir.
All right, good. It says host disabled participant screen sharing, so I'm still not able to do that.
All right.
All right, stand by 1 second, sir.
So as we get there, I'll tell you that I really look back on my recent visit to Massachusetts at a conference just a couple of years ago as being a highlight of my time as a vice commander. I felt so warmly welcomed by everybody there in Massachusetts when I was able to visit. And there we go. Screen sharing is all set. So we get the slides going here. All right. Again, I've always felt incredibly welcome in Massachusetts when I've come to visit. And I want to thank you all for that, for your warm hospitality. What I'd like to do for you today is to kind of give you an overview of what's been going on. Obviously, 2020 has been a pivotal year for CAP, so we'll talk a little bit about that. The COVID-19 impacts to Civil Air Patrol have been huge. We'll talk about that as well, and then we'll spend a few minutes looking ahead. So we began 2020 having experienced 3 straight years of significant membership growth in CAP. And back in January of 2020, we had nearly 66,000 members of Civil Air Patrol. And Massachusetts Wing started with 368 adult members, 295 cadets, or 663 volunteers. And it was a really bright time. We were looking forward to the 4th year of General Smith's term as National Commander. And ever since the beginning of his time as commander, he had a slide very much like this that was displayed on most of his briefings. We had these top-level imperatives of excellence and professionalism and a series of areas of what he called areas of emphasis. At the beginning of 2020, we were looking forward to the 4th year of his command, as I said, and he had some really specific things he wanted to accomplish. He wanted to execute the 2020 action plan as part of the strategic planning process for CAP. He was looking forward to the rollout of the new education and training program. We were going to spend some time completing the integration of more than 50 recommendations from cross-functional teams and working groups from the first 2 years of his command. Continue working diversity into CAP's membership, and incorporate the results of a large-scale First Air Force fleet and mission study. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But then,
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I apologize. We cannot see your slides, even though you're sharing.
You cannot see the slides. Okay.
No,
What were you able to see? Anything at all?
Just your video, sir.
Just my video. I think I know what I did wrong. There we go. All right. So this was the slide that this was it, right? Can you?
Well, it's
Here we go.
a blue screen. There we go.
There we
Awesome.
go.
There it is. All right. So there's the membership growth we were talking about. This was the slide that General Smith showed on a lot of his briefings with the top areas of emphasis and his strategic imperatives. But then coronavirus happened. This was the beginning of 2020. And I remember when we were first talking about this, it was at the Spaatz Association dinner in February of 2020. It was at the end of a very successful National Legislative Day. And we were all sitting around the table talking about this rumor that we heard some bad virus out of China. And I know you all remember what that was like. And just a couple of weeks later, the world would change when CAP would issue this stop movement order that was consistent with what the Department of Defense had done. Completely stop movement across Civil Air Patrol, no in-person meetings, mission essential travel only. Those were some really eye-opening directives. And what it did is it started a weekly broadcast from the Office of the National Commander, where he started talking directly to the membership, the leadership and the membership, about what was going on and what was happening in Civil Air Patrol and what all of this national crisis was doing to us and what it meant for us. We began to look at waivers that needed to happen in order to continue executing on our programs, even though we're not able to meet in person. And some things we weren't able to do, but we still had congressionally mandated programs that we needed to execute on. So how are we going to do that? We brought together the innovative minds of the national staff, both volunteer and headquarters paid staff, wing and region commanders, and we really began to figure that out. And soon after, we began to see virtual meetings popping up everywhere across the country. Upper left corner there, you can kind of see virtual meetings, Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom, and name your favorite platform. But also right at that same time, we began to get requests for what became known as COVID-19 relief missions. Civil Air Patrol, AIR is our middle name. But as Colonel Flaherty mentioned a few minutes ago, many of the requests that we were receiving were ground-based. Absolutely, some of them were air-based, but most of the requests we were getting were for work on the ground, whether it's working at a point of distribution, distributing meals, helping with PPE delivery, test kit and test sample transport. I even heard a story out of North Carolina wing where a vehicle from North Carolina wing, one of their many vehicles, managed to visit every county in North Carolina, and some places where folks had never even heard of Civil Air Patrol, but we were there. We were providing relief in some manner or another, whether it was delivering PPE or coming to deliver test kits and transport test samples. Civil Air Patrol was there, and Civil Air Patrol was helping. And up top there, you can see Opening Up America again. Toward the beginning of the pandemic, the White House published a plan, a 3-phase plan that was designed to make sure we could open our country again safely. And what Civil Air Patrol did is we took a look at that White House 3-phase plan and we adapted it for Civil Air Patrol. And we created a 3-phase plan for opening Civil Air Patrol. We called it remobilization, to move from mission essential travel only in what we called phase 0 to beginning to think about meeting in person, phase 1, sort of the preparation for meeting in person, phase 2, where we could meet with up to 50 people, certain public health protection measures in place, all the way up to phase 3, where we're starting to look more like normal again. We thought that would last maybe a few weeks, couple of months at most, and here we are more than a year later. We're still in the throes of remobilization. Now, of course, as this went along, we learned more and more about the coronavirus. We also learned how well our members obeyed the public health safety measures and how we were really vigilant about keeping each other and ourselves safe. So we were able to move some things into more restrictive phases. For example, cadet orientation flights were able to move back into phase 1 because we were doing a good job of wearing masks and sanitizing surfaces, etc. So that was a success story. That slide that you see there was created for a briefing over a year ago, and it's only been modified very slightly. So hopefully you're going to be able to see this video. It's from a site called savvy.org, and what it does is it shows the coronavirus impact county by county in the daily new case count 7-day average. And the lighter the color, the less the virus we have. The darker the color, the more virus we have. So I'm going to play this, and I'm hoping you can see it. So it starts back in March of 2020, and you can see some of the hot spots, New York City area, a little bit down south. As we move through May of 2020, it's starting to be more widespread across the country. Summer begins, school is out, people are moving around, doing some vacation, taking coronavirus into respect, of course, but now look at the Southeast. Around the July 4th holiday, coronavirus really just explodes in the Southeast. And that was kind of our second wave of the virus. Into September, where school starts, look what happens in the North Central region. It begins to really burn up. North Dakota and South Dakota were in a bad way, Wisconsin. And in October, November, it begins to totally explode in the northern tier of the country. And around Christmas and New Year's, the entire country is in the throes of coronavirus. Fortunately, after mid-January, things begin to cool down quite a bit, and this video ends mid-February as we're on the steep downslide after the end of this third wave of coronavirus. So it was really a graphical representation of what was happening across the country with respect to the virus. And of course, remobilization, we were flexing in and out of phases 0, 1, and 2. But just as that second wave was on the downward slope, August of 2020, a really important time for Civil Air Patrol, where a lot of positive things were happening in CAP. We had our first ever virtual national conference in August of 2020. Now, to put it in context, a typical really busy conference, like in a national command year, National Change of Command year, 2017, we had 700 to 800 members. In a non-command change year, we might have 400 to 500 members attend a national conference in person. Well, this virtual national conference was accessible to more than 10,000 members, but not just from across the country, across the entire world. We had members of our overseas squadrons, we had guests from different countries attending, and it was an incredibly successful event. And if you remember back at the beginning of 2020, one of General Smith's big priorities was to launch the new education and training program August 4th. And that's exactly what happened. August 4th of 2020, Colonel Regina A., who was a former North Central Region Commander and became the Director of the Chief of Education and Training at the headquarters, a volunteer position, she and her team of more than 200 volunteers launched this program that was years in the making. And it's a modern modular approach to educating our adult volunteers, which completely reinvents the 1970s era professional development program. The graph that I'm showing there on the right, the blue lines show the 2019 number of folks who've accomplished each of the levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the red line shows the 2020 number of members accomplished those. So in 4 out of the 5 levels, we had more people accomplishing those levels, completing the training for levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 than 2019. So the new program is more accessible to members. It provides more flexibility because you can do the training in person, you can do it online, or you can do it in a hybrid format where some of it's online and some of it's accomplished at, say, a wing conference or a training weekend. It's innovative, it's creative, it's modern, and it's really fantastic. So if you haven't had a chance to look at this new education and training program, I strongly encourage you to check it out. So fast forward another month and a half to September 30th, 2020. This was the end of fiscal year 2020. And we categorize our saves, our lives saved by fiscal year. And at the end of fiscal 2020, Civil Air Patrol had recorded 130 lives saved. That was the 4th highest number of lives saved since World War II. Think about that. In a pandemic year, Civil Air Patrol was not shut down. In fact, we were as busy as ever. And of course, the next day, October 1st, 2020, began fiscal 2021, the year that we're in now. And we've already been credited with 56 lives saved since October 1st. Civil Air Patrol saves lives. Now, of course, you heard this morning as well. Overall, the pandemic has cost Civil Air Patrol membership. We've lost about 15% of our members nationwide. But I'm pleased to tell you that Massachusetts is not leading the charge in losing members. At the end of 2020, Massachusetts had actually increased the number of adult members to 380. You had 246 cadets for a grand total of 626 members at the end of 2020. It was a decline overall of only 37 members, or about 5.5%, much, much smaller loss than the national average, which I said was about 15%. I don't view this membership loss as a negative. Rather, I view it as an opportunity, as a challenge. We have an opportunity here to fill our ranks again with exactly the right members for the missions that we need to accomplish. Now, that was the end of 2020, and we look at end of March, which is the last membership scrub that we did. Massachusetts had 628 members. So you're continuing a steady climb in the number of members in the Massachusetts wing. Now here on this slide, we're going to talk a little bit about coronavirus relief missions. I mentioned it earlier, the different types of things that we've got going on. This has been Civil Air Patrol's single biggest mobilization since World War II. For 381 straight days, we've been performing these COVID-19 relief missions. Now, the color codes in each of the states show the different kinds of missions that have been accomplished. They include everything from blood drives to food distribution, mask and PPE equipment delivery, test kit and test sample deliveries, airlift of personnel and equipment. And if you put it all together, we have had over 42,900 volunteer days contributed to coronavirus relief. A volunteer day is considered to be 8 hours of a volunteer's time. So add those hours up. That is incredible, significant volunteer contributions of Civil Air Patrol. And look at some of those statistics. Over 8 million meals served, 1.2 million pounds of bulk food, 2.6 million masks, 177,000 test kits, and recently we've been transporting vaccine. We've transported almost 7,500 vials of vaccine as part of our coronavirus relief effort. So again, CAP eases suffering across the country and we save lives. I find that positively inspirational. Of course, 2020 was a difficult year, but it was one of our best years, if you ask me. The way that our members have stepped up, innovative and creative approaches to getting together and accomplishing program objectives has been absolutely amazing. But we have a lot of work still ahead of us. We have those transformational changes that I talked about that we need to institutionalize, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. COVID-19 has taught us a lot about how we are accessible to our members and ways that we can improve our programs. So General Smith has committed to incorporating lessons learned from COVID-19 and creating opportunities for improvement for CAP. And we've seen a lot of civil unrest across the country this last year, and that has driven some very important conversations, both at home and among our organization. So we've been talking about diversity for quite a while, and this has brought diversity even closer to the forefront in our discussions, and it continues to be a high priority for us to talk about. And then that first Air Force Fleet and Mission Study, a series of recommendations were laid down, and I'll detail that on a future slide as well. So the cross-functional teams and working groups, we had a huge number of teams, and we were looking at ways that we can improve Civil Air Patrol in the financial stability arena, in the volunteer experience, and figuring out ways to improve our processes. And those teams came together. They put a lot of work in. It was wing and region commanders. It was staff, both paid and volunteer, that put their heads together, lots and lots of experience put out on the table, and they came out with 55 different actionable recommendations. The graph on the lower left shows our progress in institutionalizing those recommendations. 47 of the 55 have been completed. 6 of the remaining ones are on track for completion, and 2 of them were not compatible with our programs and ultimately were not approved. But in general, we're well on our way to institutionalizing those areas for improvement. I mentioned diversity and inclusion. It remains a national priority. We have an amazing cadre of diversity officers across the country. All 52 wings and all 8 regions have had their diversity officers appointed, are in the office now. And our incredible National Diversity Officer, Lieutenant Colonel Liz Cito, she's actually taking command of Virginia Wing later today. So we posted and we're about to hire a new National Diversity Officer. And trust me, we are not going to lose traction on this area. The new National Diversity Officer is going to be hitting the ground running, and we have a number of initiatives that are well on their way. This has Board of Governors level attention. It's briefed regularly to the National Commander, and it's one of our strategic initiatives across the organization. We need to look like the communities in which we serve. Civil Air Patrol needs to be accessible to everyone who's eligible to be a member, and it is our commitment to do that. We want to increase the number of female members, and we want to increase the percentage of non-whites who are a part of CAP so that we better reflect the communities that we serve. So that first Air Force Fleet and Mission Study, the Board of Governors was interested in looking at the future of CAP and making sure that we were set up for success. And in discussion at a Board of Governors meeting, the first Air Force volunteered to fund that study. And it was an external organization that did the study, and they came out with 17 different recommendations. And if you break down those recommendations, there were actually 21 different actionable items. And they varied from optimizing the aircraft fleet that we have, to getting every eligible cadet a private pilot certificate in CAP, to even changing the way that we organize our budget, or how CAP USAF is organized within the Air Force. There was a lot there. It's a huge, heavy lift, but ultimately it's going to be worth the price of admission. The juice will be worth the squeeze, if you will. It'll have a positive impact on CAP for decades. So one of the big outcomes of this is CAP USAF and 1st Air Force worked together to give us a prioritized list of missions that we are doing and that we might be doing in the future. And we took that information, comparing mission requirements against various aircraft capabilities, both aircraft in the fleet today, as well as aircraft that we could consider putting in the fleet. And it may fundamentally shift how we go about aircraft acquisition in the future. It's a big deal. It's being studied very carefully by subject matter experts at the headquarters. I'm on 5 different recommendation teams here, and I can tell you, having been a part of this for the better part of a year, it's a heavy lift, but it will equip CAP to be even more successful in the future, and it'll be worth our time and effort. 2020 hit us pretty hard with respect to pilots. Not everyone could fly during the pandemic to remain proficient. Not everyone could get the check rides that they needed, whether it was a Form 5 or a Form 91. So our partners at Camp USAF, they stepped up and they funded new areas for us: pilot onboarding, return to flying, additional proficiency money, etc. So our objective here is to get back to where we were before the pandemic. Many areas of the country are already showing a lot of success, and the graphs here are Form 5 on the left and Form 91 on the right for mission pilots. And they go up throughout the month, and then as folks expire, they come back down first of the month. They go back up during the course of the next month, and we can see a steady increase at the beginning of each subsequent month as more pilots come into CAP and more pilots are able to get their check rides. So we need to keep the focus on this. We have a lot of missions to perform. We need pilots, we need aircrew members, we need ground members to perform those missions. So let's not lose the focus on this. We are extremely fortunate in Civil Air Patrol to have a gentleman at the top of our health services organization named Lieutenant Colonel Tom Janisco. He's actually a commissioned officer in the U.S. Public Health Service, and in his day job, he works on the White House Task Force for Coronavirus. He's our chief of health services, and it's pretty amazing. He has told us to aggressively plan for spring and summer activities to be in person, because the national level models at the CDC and the White House are showing diminishing disease as vaccine continues to penetrate the population. That doesn't mean, though, that we should lose our focus. It's important for us to remain vigilant with respect to safety measures, everything from sanitizing surfaces to wearing masks, and then allowing that vaccine to penetrate our population. So when it's your turn, we are definitely encouraged to get the vaccine. But what it means for Civil Air Patrol in the near future, we are planning for summer activities. We are planning for encampments to be in person. Now, for those overnight activities, we really want wings to be in phase 3. But if you're not in phase 3, you're still in phase 2, I have every confidence that Wings and the National Cadet Programs folks will find creative solutions to get program objectives accomplished, even if we have to have exceptions or different ways of accomplishing it. We're going to be creative about that. And soon you'll see some guidance from the National Headquarters Cadet Program, which has been produced in conjunction with Health Services on how to accomplish summer activities under the waning coronavirus pandemic. At the beginning of 2021, right after Christmas, when the whole country was in a bad way with COVID-19, there were many wings in phase 0 and a few wings in phase 1. But as February and March have seen a reduction in coronavirus in most of the states, we only have 7 wings remaining in phase 1, and there are 45 different wings approved for either full state or by group or by unit phase 2. The ones in purple, New York, Missouri, California, and Hawaii, those are approved for by unit into phase 2. Several wings, more than a dozen, have phase 3 plans submitted, and we're only waiting for the public health metrics to align with our requirements for those submitted plans to be approved for forward move into phase 3. So this is a good news story. Remobilization continues forward, and soon New Mexico is going to be turning to phase 2 as well. So New Mexico was a state that had some serious state level mandates. We always take into account not just the public health statistics, but also the state level requirements. And CAP goes by whatever is more strict, the state mandate or CAP's mandate. Civil Air Patrol's reach is tremendous. On this map, you see a dot for every squadron in the country. We have a wide geographic reach from Puerto Rico to Alaska and Hawaii. And we even have overseas units in South Korea, Japan, England, Germany, and Belgium. So many assets across Civil Air Patrol: 560 aircraft, 47 gliders, hot air balloons, the largest fleet of small unmanned aerial systems in the country. But the most important asset we have is our members. And our members in Northeast Region and Massachusetts Wing are ably led by Colonel Ozer and Colonel Flaherty. But I want to take a minute and give credit to everybody in the Massachusetts Wing, whether you're a squadron commander or just a member who's ridden out the pandemic and done your best to participate. My compliments and my thanks to you for staying involved, staying engaged, and volunteering to be a CAP member. What we do is meaningful work. As I said before, Civil Air Patrol saves lives. Civil Air Patrol shapes lives. You inspire me with what you do. And I want to say thank you for everything that you do as a part of Civil Air Patrol, for your communities, for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and for the entire nation. Thank you so much for having me be a part of your conference this morning, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh, General Falco, what can I say? But thank you very much for taking the time out of your day. We know you're a very busy individual. But thank you again. I think I speak for the entire wing when I say thank you for coming and joining us this morning and providing us with the national update and perspective. You know, I've had the opportunity to hear you speak several times now, and I will tell you that I have always been highly, highly impressed. I did write one thing down, and that was the juice will be worth the squeeze. I have never heard that before, sir. It is now a quote I will be using moving forward.
Yeah, I think I got that one from General Smith. He's used that several times, and it's become part of the vernacular. I kind of like it.
That's great. Thank you, sir. So I'm going to go back, and I believe you've stopped sharing your screen.
Yes, we can see yours, Steve.
All right, we're good to go. So members of the Massachusetts delegation, we are truly honored to have Brigadier General Virginia Gaglio, Chief of Staff and Air Force Component Commander of the Massachusetts Air National Guard, as our keynote speaker today. General Gaglio is the principal advisor to the Adjutant General and Land Component Commander in the administration, coordination, planning, development, and execution of all Air National Guard and National Guard Joint Staff programs. Under her command, General Gaglio ensures the preparation of approximately 8,200 airmen and soldiers of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for contingency operations in both federal and state emergencies. She assists the Adjutant General in overseeing the Commonwealth's Joint Homeland Defense Program to response forces, counter-drug operations, civil support teams, expeditionary medical teams, and explosive ordnance disposal. She has served in Operations Northern Watch, Noble Eagle, Iraqi Freedom, and Enduring Freedom. General Gaglio, you may not know this yet, but we are about to add one more member to the 8,200. Our very own Lieutenant Colonel Dave Druger, also known as Dr. Druger, will soon be joining your ranks as a flight surgeon in your Air National Guard. I know this has been a dream come true for this young man, and rest assured, I can tell you he will serve you well. General Gaglio, it is a distinct honor to have you with us today. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. And can you hear me okay?
Can hear you fine.
Yes, ma'am. Good
Okay,
morning.
Great. I don't have slides this morning, if you could just share my screen so I could talk to the cadets and the adults that are in the conference today, that'd be fantastic.
I believe you are shared. Oh, can you see us?
I just see the slide, but if you can see me, that's fine. I'll start from here.
Yep.
So good morning, and I just want to give a shout out to Colonel Flaherty for inviting me today and just having an opportunity to speak with people that are Air Force minded people like myself. And thanks to General Felka for your presentation. It kind of dovetails in what I'm going to talk about today, in that we share a common bond, the Air National Guard and the Civil Air Patrol. So I got interested in the Civil Air Patrol a few years ago when I was the wing commander at the 102nd Intelligence Wing. And I heard for the first time at a conference, Air Combat Command conference, that the Civil Air Patrol was aligned with Air Combat Command, and then later numbered Air Force, 1st Air Force. And so I took that information and went back to the Cape and introduced myself to Don Schatz and said, I want to help your squadron as much as I can to make sure that you're outfitted with the correct building and the resources you need to be successful on Joint Base Cape Cod. So if you're out there, good morning, and Pat McNamara, both from that squadron. I've worked with both those individuals for some time. So it was an enriching experience working with them when I was the wing commander. And then now I took that information in one of my roles, in addition to being the Air Component Commander in Massachusetts, is that I work as the advisor, Air National Guard advisor, to the Secretary of the Air Force for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, SAFMR, which Civil Air Patrol falls under that portfolio for policy and resourcing as an auxiliary. And so it was great to be able to have that information. And one of my charges in that role is that I'm supposed to be bringing airframes and air power to your summer encampments this year. And I just got the schedule about 3 weeks ago, and I was really pleased to see the number of summer encampments that are going to be scheduled across the country this year. And I will do my best to work with the Air Force wings around the country to make sure that you have airframes to support that. So thank you very much. So what I would say is that the Air National Guard and the Civil Air Patrol, our vernacular, our mission statements are very similar, and we share 5 common bonds that I'd like to highlight today to the audience here for this, and how we might be better aligned in the future. First of all, we're both unit equipped, the Air National Guard and the Civil Air Patrol. You've got that 560 plus aircraft, your 1,500 small UASs. I won't reiterate what General Felka talked about today, but you're unit equipped much like we are. You're community based. Unlike the Air Force, the Air National Guard is in every state and community, and so are you, right? So with 28,000 cadets and over 38,000 adult members and 1,400 squadrons, quite often as Air National Guardsmen and Civil Air Patrol, the only Air National Guard or Air Force people that you see in the country are National Guardsmen. And so you understand communities, you understand community-based service, which is what the Air National Guard does as well. The third common bond that I would say that we both share is that we're very cost efficient, right? And I would say the Civil Air Patrol is more cost efficient than the Air National Guard because of your volunteerism. But your flight hours, from what I see, $140 per hour, that's incredibly inexpensive compared to what we see in the Air National Guard or the Air Force. And your volunteer services are leveraged. But the Air National Guard is able to supply the Air Force with manpower and efficiency at a much lower cost rate than the active duty, because we are a 1/3 full-time, 2/3 part-time mix. Fourth, you understand status. So as an active duty Air Force person, you have one status, and that's federal all the time. As Air National Guard, we have a dual status. We swear an oath to the governor and the president of the United States when we join the Air National Guard. And we are often federally mobilized for operations like Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom. But we also, as is important, work for the governor in times of crisis. And we all know in COVID, it was all hands on deck. For the Civil Air Patrol, it was the same way. The Air National Guard, General Felka mentioned that it was the largest mobilization you'd had since World War II. That was the same for Massachusetts when we were tasked for COVID operations and working for the governor. And you did a lot of the same types of mission sets that we did as well. We also had augmented with medical personnel in the Boston Convention Center, Holyoke Soldiers Home, and then did a very robust testing system at skilled nursing facilities. But you understand that emergency service and that alignment, and that's at the heart of being an Air National Guardsman as well. And then finally, you're deliberately force developed, right? So you've got these senior Civil Air Patrol members that are deliberately developing these cadets, and that's one of your charter missions. The same way in the Air National Guard, we deliberately develop our force because we don't move around. So the active duty will move every couple of years from base to base, whereas you might have an Air National Guardsman like myself. I was on active duty and then joined the Air National Guard. I stayed at one wing for 30 years, and we deliberately developed those force members. So what does that all mean as far as our similarities? I think that there's a lot of untapped potential between the Air National Guard and the Civil Air Patrol. And we need to do a better job. And I talked to Colonel Flaherty about this a few weeks ago. We need to do a better job in the Air National Guard, aligning our wings across the country. We have 90 wings. You have 50 plus wings in every state. We need to do a better job in bringing aviation-minded Air National Guardsmen to your cadets and talking about the value of the Air Force and talking about what our mission sets are. I think that if we have the opportunity to tell our story at the local level, we could provide a career path for your cadets in the upcoming years, and basically mentor them as far as their choices as they leave high school and move on. So I've talked to Colonel Flaherty about this, and I plan to, at least within the state of Massachusetts, align each squadron within the Civil Air Patrol with one of our wings, and give you a variety. And I want to hear your feedback. What kind of career fields would you like for us to bring out? Not just aviation, although we certainly will want to do that, and aircraft maintenance, but potentially security forces, civil engineering, cyber. We have a really robust capability within the state of Massachusetts and our cyber capabilities, and that is an emerging Civil Air Patrol competency as well. So I'd like to bring that out. So I am fully interested in partnering with the Massachusetts wing and then nationally on what we can do. Next, I'd like to just kind of switch and talk to the cadets in the room today, and just say thank you for taking the time to join the Civil Air Patrol and be a cadet. The young adults of America today, there's less propensity to serve in the military than ever. And the interest in military service, it's not necessarily a negative thing, but less than 1% of all Americans have served in the military at this point. And that's changed over the past 50 years because of demographics. As we've gone from an all volunteer force in the early 80s and 70s, less family members have been able to teach their children and grandchildren about what it means to serve in the military. And so knowing that type of opportunity, the benefit, the value of being affiliated with something bigger than yourself, I think a lot of young students in high school don't know what it would mean to serve. And so I just want to say thank you for taking the time to be a part of the Civil Air Patrol. This week marks my 35th year of being in the United States Air Force. And I didn't know about the Civil Air Patrol as a young high schooler, but I wished I had. My story is kind of interesting in that when I grew up in Texas, and around 12 years old, or around the same time that you could become a cadet in the Civil Air Patrol, my family took a trip to San Antonio. And San Antonio, if you don't know, is the gateway of the Air Force. It's where Lackland Air Force Base is, and where all boot camp for enlisted members, basic training is held. And on the Saturday of every Saturday in San Antonio, you'll see hundreds of airmen for the first time in 6 weeks in their blues, walking along the Riverwalk, enjoying San Antonio, and their first day out right before they graduate basic military training. So my family was there, and as a young 12-year-old, I was walking along the Riverwalk and saw all these airmen and women, which was uncommon as well back then, and thought, wow, that would be really neat to be in the Air Force. That being said, I kind of forgot about it as I became a teenager, much like teenagers get interested in getting their license and their studies and all the other things that you do in high school. I kind of forgot about that dream. And then after graduating high school, I saw really no opportunity to go to college because my family, no one had ever been to college in my family. And so I got a job after high school, and sitting in traffic, I would listen to the same radio ad every single day about joining the Air Force and the benefits of being in it and the exciting career fields you could do if you were in there. And so sitting in traffic with the radio on, I made the decision to go see a recruiter. And at age 19, I joined the Air Force as an aircraft mechanic, and then later transferred to the Air National Guard after my first tour. And I couldn't have imagined the twists and turns of my career as an Air Force officer and now general officer in the Air Force, and what I've been afforded. I say all this to you because the opportunities that you can have in the Air Force, in the Air National Guard, in the military are really boundless and only limited by your own potential. So, you know, I'll take any questions that you might have today. I just wanted to say thank you. I want to really focus on, over the next couple of years, as I'm in this position as the Air Guard commander, in making sure that we partner more with Civil Air Patrol, that we give the mission of the Air National Guard to you, and we educate you, and then you educate us. Many of the same missions that we do, it is a natural partnership, and I think that there's a lot of untapped potential. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me today. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, General Gaglio, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us this morning. I can tell you your message has certainly resonated with me. I'm sure it has resonated with all the cadets that you just addressed. Speaking about the common bonds between Civil Air Patrol and the Air National Guard, that is phenomenal. And you talked about looking to continue to tap those resources. I can tell you right now, everybody on the other end of your phone call has said, yes, we would absolutely be willing to do that. So we look forward to this continued partnership and growth. And again, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us this morning. And we look forward to seeing you again. I'll just ask if anybody has any questions. I'm going to mute my microphone for a moment and allow folks to ask.
Good morning, ma'am. Could you talk more about your cyber capabilities in the Guard? And because we do have Cyber Patriot competitions within Civil Air Patrol, and many of our cadets engage in that several times during the year, but perhaps you could expand upon that while we have some of these young cadets on the conference this morning. Thank you.
Sure. So the cyber capability within the Air Force and the Air National Guard is growing tremendously. I'll focus on Massachusetts as far as our cyber capability. So both wings, we have a wing in Western Mass and a wing on the Cape, have a communications flight, which is basically IT service. And so that's a small capability within both wings. In particular, within the wing on Joint Base Cape Cod, we have a couple of very unique cyber missions. Our 253 Cyber Engineering Installation Group is an entire group of communication professionals that look at the engineering and installation portion of cyber. So they go into a bare base or a base that's already hardened and lay in the infrastructure needed for fiber optic cable, for communications. And so they do the design work, and obviously they have to have a very strong understanding of the cyber layers in order to design that. Most recently, last year, they instead of contracting out the services at the White House, it was a multi-year project. The 253rd Cyber Engineering Group on Cape Cod were the communication professionals that designed the upgrade to the White House 18 acres of buildings for bringing them into that 5G network capability, and did the lay-in and design for that. They also were, instead of using a contractor, did all of the communications for Strategic Command in Nebraska. So Strategic Command is the combatant commander that has the entire nuclear arsenal for the Air Force. And so they did the entire building and the communications, and that's only, that building is only second to the Pentagon in size for communication infrastructure. So we've got a pretty robust engineering and installation cyber capability on the Cape. In addition, one of the core missions at the 102nd Intelligence Wing is cyber intelligence. And so the 202 Cyber Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Group, their mission is to do intelligence on the cyberspace domain. And so we have a number of individuals, they're intelligence analysts, but they understand the cyberspace domain in and out. They know every piece of coding, every computer language, and then they know how to manipulate or look at malware and being able to collect data and information to answer questions from commanders on that domain. And it quickly gets into a classified conversation when you talk about cyber intelligence, but that capability is tremendously sought after, obviously, in civilian businesses and occupations. So what we find is a lot of our Air National Guardsmen who go into cyber intelligence, it's a long school, but they come out of that with tremendous capability that you can really only receive in the military. That is hard to receive. Even, you know, we've had a lot of our young airmen that have gone after school, tech school, and now they're back as airmen, as cyber intelligence airmen, and they go get their degree in cybersecurity or software programming or whatever it might be with their undergraduate. And they tell me that it's easy, you know, as far as the work at the universities is very easy. And in particular, recently, we started to partner with a number of universities in the Air National Guard. The 102nd specifically has a partnership with the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. And they give over 30 hours of credit for certain career fields within their cybersecurity program. But moreover, we're trying to look at ways that we can work with the undergraduate students and mentor them, and then have some crosstalk. Bridgewater State University just recently reached out to the Massachusetts National Guard and was looking for potential affiliation. And as they are setting up a grant for a cyber range at Bridgewater State University. And so that will, we do a number of exercises every year within the Air National Guard, both Army and Air, to test capabilities and test cyber operations. But Bridgewater State, if they had that range, we could work as uniformed personnel with their undergraduate students and collaborate. And the one thing that I'll just make my pitch for the National Guard, since I'm on today, is that Massachusetts has some of the best benefits in the country for National Guardsmen. If you're an Air National Guardsman or Army National Guardsman, you receive 100% free tuition and fees to any state university. So it's waived for up to 130 credit hours. So which that is an undergraduate degree, or if you already got your bachelor's degree and you want to get a master's or doctoral, you've got 130 credit hours as long as you're affiliated with the Air Force, on top of all your federal benefits that you receive. So it's an amazing capability. It's growing. We have a cyber battalion in the Army side, and it excites me to find out about the career field. And I wish I was an airman all over again, because I'd go into cyber if I could.
Well, thank you, Jen. That was a great answer to that question. Do we have any more questions for the general before we let her go?
Yes, I have a question. Ma'am, do you see any joint Air National Guard Civil Air Patrol activities or missions? And by the way, Bridgewater State University has a composite squadron that I'm a member of.
Oh, that's great information, and I appreciate that. So yes, that's one of the areas that I wanted to develop over time. So the wings tend to be autonomous, you know, as far as their activities, and I'm really there for the strategic oversight and direction. But the Air National Guard wings have a number of exercises every year. And I'm trying to work with my wing commanders now to look at the capabilities of the Civil Air Patrol. How can we partner when we do these large scale exercises for readiness? Your flying hours are inexpensive. There's certain capabilities that you can bring to a large scale exercise, whether it's it's a oversight with imagery or maybe communication flow, command and control. If cyber, that would be an opportunity as well. I want to be able to integrate that low cost, high potential capability within both wings, working with the Civil Air Patrol and the squadrons here in Massachusetts. And I think that the Western Mass Squadron and the Cape Squadron have an ongoing relationship with the two wings, but the other squadrons within the state, I don't believe they do as much. And I would like to develop that further so that we can start to share best practices. You know, General Falca, as he talked, many of his points were ones that I was going to make, and the common language, the common mission sets are just astounding. So there's a lot of potential there, and I would love to be able to bring in Civil Air Patrol and utilize you in some of the exercises that we do.
All right, well, I think we're going to be respectful of your time, General, and again, say thank you very, very much for coming and speaking to us today. We know this will not be the last, so we look forward to continuing to grow our partnership, and truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and speak with us this morning. So thank you again very much.
It was my pleasure. Have a nice day.
Thank you, ma'am. You as well. Appreciate it very much.
So bear with me just 1 second here while I pull up our slides again. Just
Stephen, I think we're at the point to start awards, but maybe it's possible if we take a 5-minute break for, you know, personal issues.
No, absolutely. And why don't we take a 5-minute break? We are at the point of starting the awards, folks. So right now I have it. The time is 10:23. Why don't we look to regather at 10:30?
Sounds great. We'll
All
see
right.
you back here then. Thanks, Stephen.
All right. Take care now.